Hello everybody, welcome to iExamBee's LegalBee. This is Amrita, your law faculty at iExamBee. We have started a series of mock tests. Every day you get mock tests at 11 a.m. These are subject-wise, topic-wise mock tests that you are getting. And recently I have started with Transfer of Property Act. This is the second video from the subject of Transfer of Property Act. In previous video we have discussed about what is transfer of property, the basic concept and questions based on that. Today we will be discussing sale, which is another very important chapter from Transfer of Property Act. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if not subscribed yet. If you have any queries, you can write to us at hello@iexambee.com. You can also call on this number and get your queries resolved. आप www.iexambee.com पे विजिट करके भी सारे कोर्सेज की डिटेल्स चेकआउट कर सकते हैं. Transfer of Property Act, sale. Sale, as I told you, is a very important topic from TP Act. It is a transfer of ownership in exchange for a price. So that is the concept of sale. That element of money is very, very important in sale transactions that you have to always keep in mind so that you are able to distinguish between sale and other transactions. So let us see the first question on the topic. Doctrine of part performance is covered under which section of the Transfer of Property Act? This is immediately preceding section to the sale chapter, but I have taken this question over here as it talks about the part performance of a transaction, which is important from TP Act point of view. Practically also you can find various examples, especially in sale you can find part performance examples. अगर आप कोर्ट में जाते हैं तो वहाँ पे भी आपको ऐसे टाइप के काफ़ी सारे situations देखने मिलेंगे. So which is the section actually that deals with this doctrine of part performance? It is section 53A. What is the part performance? If any person is contracting to transfer for consideration any immovable property by writing signed by him or on his behalf by anybody, to constitute transfer can be ascertained with reasonable certainty, and the transferee has in part performance of the contract taken possession of the property also. Then already part performance of the transaction has actually taken place. Then in furtherance of that contract, if the transferee has performed also some kind of activity, notwithstanding that where there is an instrument of transfer, the transfer has not been completed in the manner that is prescribed for the law, time being in force, then the transferor or any person who is claiming under him shall be debarred from enforcing against the transferee and persons who are claiming under him any right in respect of the property of which the transferee has taken or continued in possession. यानी कि पार्ट परफॉर्मेंस का जो इम्पोर्टेंस है वो इस सेक्शन में बताया हुआ है. दैट पार्ट परफॉर्मेंस को हमें रिस्पेक्ट करना है. वी कैन नॉट से दैट द ट्रांजैक्शन हैज नॉट बीन कंप्लीटेड इवन इफ पार्ट परफॉर्मेंस हैज बीन डन. The law protects the interests of the transferee over here who has taken that property in possession. So ऐसा सेल के ट्रांजैक्शंस में भी हो सकता है पार्ट परफॉर्मेंस. So that is why this section is very relevant over here. Sale is transfer of ownership in exchange of price paid or promised, price paid partly and partly promised, B or C, that is price paid or promised, or price part paid or promised. Price paid or promised or partly paid, partly promised, including the payment in kind. अब ये कंसेप्ट काफ़ी इजी था जब तक हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि एलिमेंट ऑफ मनी इज रिक्वायर्ड. बट द क्वेश्चन इज नॉट दैट. क्वेश्चन इज दैट द प्राइस शैल बी पेड एट वन टाइम, or it can be promised also, or it can be payment in kind also. So that has made the question tricky as the options have become like that. So the answer is D, that price paid or promised, price part paid and part promised. This is what is exactly mentioned in section 54 of the TP Act that defines sale. Third question. Contract for sale is defined in section 54 of TP Act, not defined in the TP Act, defined in section 55 of TP Act, defined in the Sale of Goods Act, same as contract of sale. Now this contract for sale and contract of sale confuses students a lot. That's why I have taken this particular section over here, and especially अगर students को concept पता भी है, so they are not able to locate the provision for that. They feel that TP Act में एक provision है और एक Sale of Goods Act में है. So let me tell you that answer is A. Section 54 of the TP Act itself covers this part. Section 54 में definition के बाद contract for sale भी defined है. And what that means? It means a contract for the sale of immovable property is a contract that the sale of such property shall take place on terms that are agreed between the parties. So that will be taking place on a future date. So this kind of contract for sale is what is sale of immovable property. You are ensuring that it will take place on so and so date. While that transaction is taking place, you are actually giving a token amount also. Contract for sale is for sale of immovable property, sale of movable property, sale of both movable and immovable property, sale of mortgage property, sale of leased and mortgaged property. अब ये क्वेश्चन काफ़ी सिंपल होना चाहिए आपके लिए, क्योंकि अभी हमने प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन में ही सेक्शन डिस्कस किया हुआ है. दैट इज सेल ऑफ इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी. इट इज क्लियरली मेंशन्ड इन सेक्शन 54. Contract for sale as under section 54 of the TP Act provides for सेल से रिलेटेड ज़्यादा सेक्शंस नहीं है, बट उसमें से काफ़ी क्वेश्चंस निकल के आ सकते हैं. ट्रांसफर ऑफ इंटरेस्ट इन इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, ट्रांसफर ऑफ इंटरेस्ट इन मूवेबल इन इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, ट्रांसफर ऑफ चार्ज इन इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, ट्रांसफर ऑफ सेटलमेंट बिटवीन द पार्टीज, टर्म्स ऑफ सेटलमेंट बिटवीन द पार्टीज फॉर सेल ऑफ इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी. So this contract for sale provides for the transfer in interest, though it will take place in the future, but it is relating to what subject matter of the property. That is what is the question over here. Answer E. Terms of settlement between the parties for sale of immovable property. That means transfer of interest or terms of settlement. This is what is the thing that we have to be careful about. That it is terms of settlement are decided. Transfer of interest is not there. What is decided is the terms of settlement between the parties for sale of immovable property. Sections 55 of the Transfer of Property Act provides for rights and liabilities of buyer and seller, rights of buyer, rights of vendor, rights of seller, rights of buyer and seller. So this section provides for what? Rights and liabilities, but of whom? That is what is the question. Again, a section based one, but it is something which is an important section which you should remember. A. Rights and liabilities of buyer and seller. Seller is entitled to rent from the property till ownership passes to the buyer, till possession is with him, when the contract of sale is entered into, if the sale deed is executed and registered, A and B, that is till ownership passes to the buyer, till possession is with him. So seller is entitled to rent from the property when? That is what is the question. Answer is E, that is in both the situations, till ownership passes to the buyer and till possession is with him. Because both the things, if you just imagine, it means what? That the seller will be getting rent from the property when the ownership has not passed to the buyer. So till it is with the seller, till the possession is with him. Transfer of Property Act section 55 talks about this again, rights and liabilities of buyer and seller. That it is an entitlement of seller. Clause 4 covers this, that the seller is entitled to the rents and profits. यहाँ पर rents के जगह पर profits भी हो सकता था as a question, from the property till the ownership thereof passes to the buyer. Which of the following is not a duty of the buyer? To pay the purchase money to seller as he directs, to bear any loss due to decrease in value of the property not caused by the seller, to disclose to the seller any fact of his interest in the property of which the buyer is aware, to disclose to the seller any fact of buyer's interest in the property of which the seller is aware, none of the above. अब ये ड्यूटीज़ और लाइबिलिटीज़ वाले जो क्वेश्चंस होते हैं, इसमें कई बार हम लोग कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं, जबकि ये क्वेश्चंस होते बहुत इजी हैं. So that's why we have to just apply our mind and simple logic at that particular time when we are solving such kind of questions. So which is not a duty of the buyer? We have to find it out. Answer is D, to disclose to the seller any fact of buyer's interest in the property of which the seller is aware. Section 55 talks about it, that the buyer is bound to disclose to the seller any fact as to the nature or extent of the seller's interest in the property of which the buyer is aware, but of which he has reason to believe that the seller is not aware, and which materially increases the value of such interest. What is marshalling? That is, what is the concept marshalling? Marshalling is provided only for subsequent purchaser, provided only for subsequent mortgagee, provided only for subsequent mortgagee or purchaser, provided for subsequent purchaser, mortgagee and leasee, provided for prior mortgagee, subsequent purchaser. Now the concept of marshalling is what? It is actually a kind of adjustment that is created. It is an adjustment of securities basically. This concept you will find in mortgage also, and you will find it in sale also. That the interest, that the security actually is belonging to the people who are having so many properties. So if a person is having so many properties, out of which 3 properties have been mortgaged, then the person can get the debt which is mortgage. The subsequent mortgagee or the subsequent purchaser can get the mortgage debt satisfied out of the properties, even if those properties are not mortgaged to him or he is not buying those properties subsequently. Then marshalling means the adjustment of the money from the remaining properties of the owner, because the owner is having his interest in all the properties, no doubt. So even if the property is not directly mortgaged to that person, he can satisfy his principal debt out of those properties. This is what is the concept of marshalling. So provided only for subsequent mortgagee or purchaser, only the subsequent person can get the rights of marshalling. That is what is the simple concept over here. Section 56 deals with marshalling by subsequent purchaser, and when we talk about mortgage, section 81 deals with marshalling by securities. So the last question for today's video, chapter 3 of the TP Act covers sale of what? First thing is that we have to remember chapter 3 of the TP Act covers sale. Now it covers sale of what? Immovable property, movable property, both. Immovable properties of the value above rupees 100, movable property of the value above rupees 100, and immovable properties altogether. So that is what is the question over here. It is a very easy question. If you know the answer, you can solve it in some seconds, or else you may get confused. Answer is A. Chapter 3 is applicable only to the immovable properties. Of sale of immovable property is expressly mentioned in this chapter. Let me give you an update about Robin Sir's session, and it is a free workshop. So as soon as possible, try to register for it. He is a senior counsel with experience of more than 25 years. He is practicing at Punjab and Haryana High Court and also the Honorable Supreme Court of India. So if you have any queries about litigation, about judiciary as a career, about ADA, about any other law officer course that you want to pursue, a law officer exam that you want to pursue after your LLB, you can come and take free workshop and expert guidance from Robin Sir. So don't forget to register for it. And if you have any queries, you can write to us at hello@exambee.com. And also don't forget to subscribe to LegalBee and stay updated with all these beneficial content, videos and workshop sessions, strategic guidance that we keep on providing at LegalBee. Thank you so much everybody, and prepare 50% faster.